Hey YouTube fam, it's your girl Leah back again with another video. In today's video, as you can see from the title, I will be discussing my thoughts, my opinions on taking and passing the PHR certification test. Now, I make a lot of hair content, a lot of fashion content, a lot of vlogs, solo cruising content. So there are a lot of people who follow me for that and click this video just to be inquisitive. And their first question to me will be, what is PHR? You've heard me say it throughout this year if you follow me regularly. And I've gotten those comments all the time. But if you clicked on this and you have no idea what the PHR is, then it's okay if you skip this video. If you're my regular follower, one of my regular subscribers, and you watch me for other stuff, I'm okay if you skip out on this one. This is for my HR folk out there who want to take the PHR, but they don't know how, when, what, is it worth it, should I, could I, all of that stuff is to get into my experience with the PHR, taking the PHR, passing the PHR, study tips, study aids, all of that good stuff. I'm going to be walking you through that in today's video. So if you are not familiar with the phrase PHR or what PHR stands for, which it stands for a professional in human resources, this might not be the video for you. But if you want to learn more, just keep watching. I'm going to go through lots of points when it comes to the PHR to get yourself ready before, during, and post that test. So the PHR is for people who want to show their proficiency in human resources and they work in the human resources space. Now, I took and I passed the PHR in April of 2022, so a few months ago. Now, I got a lot of requests to make a video like this earlier, and I thought about it, but I wanted to wait until I took the SHRM CP. So I have plans next year to take the SHRM CP exam as well, because I'm a glutton for punishment and I just love punishment, clearly. But I started getting so far away, like we're in September coming up now. I started getting far away. I was like, I want to make this video now, so while it's fresh in my memory and I don't get confused while preparing for the SHRM or after the SHRM certification test. So I want to make this specifically devoted to PHR right now. A little bit about my background so you know who I am as an HR professional, and it'll make sense about the exam in a minute. I went to school, graduated from college in 2012, North Carolina State, go Wolfpack. I graduated with a degree in business administration with a concentration in finance and human resources. If you've been in college, you know all it takes for a concentration class is four classes. So I took 4 finance because my original goal when I went in 2008, I wanted to be an accountant. Quickly realized that wasn't where I wanted to be. Took finance, but then I also was like, I want something else. And so I got into human resources. So I took 4 human resources classes for my concentration. I really wanted to go into compensation. I thought that's where I was going to land because I thought it was the cool thing of still having numbers in my life in finance, but then being compensation. Of course, when 2012 hit and it's time to graduate, I had to go where the jobs were. So I went, and my first job was as a senior recruiting analyst for a company at that time. I guess I can say it now. I always never say it, but I say it now. It was called Aon. I was a senior recruiting analyst. They did RPO, so recruitment process outsourcing. My client was Marriott for all 4 years that I worked there. So I worked for Marriott through Aon, which again, they outsourced. Marriott outsourced all of their recruitment. Some people outsource a portion of it. They outsource everything except for campus. So I did that for 4 years. Then for 2 years, I worked as a recruiting assistant at a law firm. And then now I've been working for the last 4.5 years at a company. For the last 2 years here, I've been a campus recruiter. I do still do regular recruiting as well, but my main focus, so about 70% of my job is campus recruiting. So if you see, ever since college, my first job was supposed to be a rotational program. So it was about 10 of us from college, all different colleges, and we were 10 students in a development program for recruitment and then recruitment. So my whole life has been recruitment or talent acquisition, depending on what you title as your place. My company calls it talent acquisition, but that is all I've done for my last 10 years, since 2012 when I graduated to now when I'm 10 years removed. So that's all I know. So you're probably wondering, okay, so all you do is talent acquisition, but the test is composed of a few other areas. If you look at the test, and I'll put it up on screen now, the test is only 16% talent acquisition or talent planning. It's also total rewards, 15%, learning and development, 10%, but the biggest chunks are employee and labor relations and business management. So knowing that I've only been in the talent acquisition space for the last decade, you're probably wondering, why did you even take the PHR? Like, it doesn't even make sense. You're not an HR generalist. You're not an HR business partner, HR manager, director level. You're only in one concentrated area. How could it be of help? What I did was, I knew I'm somebody who does not want to go back to get a master's. No. Next year, at the end of next year, I should be done with student loans in general. I'm not getting any more. I'm done. So what is my way of continued education? For me, I looked at what my managers have. Both my prior manager, when I signed up for the PHR, I had a different manager. I got a new manager in February of 2022. But my prior manager and my current manager both have their certifications in PHR. I looked at positions of who I wanted to be in the future, not even just at my company. I looked externally, looked on LinkedIn at titles of what I want to do in the future, and a lot of them said either PHR or SHRM CP certification. That is what they had. And it wasn't required. It wasn't under required, but it's definitely under preferred. It was under preferred 9 times out of 10 in positions that I looked for. And again, a lot of what I want to do in my future is still be within talent acquisition, whether as a talent acquisition manager, either as a campus recruiting director. My current title is a talent program manager, so I'm over the talent program, specifically program over campus, but I still go on campuses. My ultimate goal is to be over the program without having to go on site, like still coordinate, still build relationships with universities, still do all those wonderful things, but maybe like not have to go places. And a lot of people have told me that's a pipe dream, that campus recruiting is always going to have a level of travel, which I'm okay with, but I just know future me will probably want to sit my butt down at a certain point. So just looking at where I see myself 10, 20 years in the future, what I want to be doing, a lot of those roles had PHR certification or SHRM CP, honestly. They had either or. None of them specifically just said PHR. They've always had both. So I honestly say, to figure out what's best for you, whether it's worth it to do it, look at positions of where you want to be in the future. Where do you see your career progressing? If it never says on there SHRM or PHR or whatever you want, then maybe you don't have to do it. But where I saw myself in the future, it said PHR, it said SHRM, it said these certifications, and now I know I ain't getting no master's degree, so what can I do to make myself look better on paper? If you clicked on this video, you probably have realized that you want to do PHR. That's where you want to go. That's where your heart is. One of the main deciding factors for me was that my LMS, Learning Management System, for my full-time job has a well-rounded program, a certification SkillSoft class totally dedicated for PHR certification that 100% helped me so much on this test. And we'll get into study aids and things that helped me study in a little bit, but I will 100% say that was what helped me land the decision. They don't have anything on the site really outside of books on my LMS. And if you take the PHR, you know what LMS is, our learning management system. At my job, they have so much, like have AWS, they have like technical, they have like computers, stuff that is way over my head. The one they had was PHR, so that really sold my decision to go PHR, because when you really look at the other stats, so for example, I looked up the pass rate of the PHR. The pass rate for the PHR is 65%. That means if 100 people walked in to take the PHR, only 65 are walking out passing. That means 35 walked out that room with their heads down. That's I would love like an 80% pass rate, but looking at the SHRM, it wasn't much different. Looking at the SHRM from their December to February statistics, their pass rate was 67%. So 67 people out of 100 walked out, yay! And then that means 33 people walked out with, oh my God, I'm going to have to redo this situation. So the pass-fail rate didn't really factor into it. Like I didn't take it because it was easier or harder. It's only a difference of 2% between the two things. It's only a 2% difference. So both are very challenging tests. Now, the biggest tip that helped me is that I registered for the test before I even started studying. For the last I guess 3 years that I've had this channel, I used to make an annual goals video. And if you watch those goals videos, study for the PHR or get my PHR certification, have been on it for years. I was sounding like a broken record in terms of, yeah, this year I'm going to do it, this year I'm going to do it. And then I would just sit around and not crack open the book, or I bought the book, I bought a study guide, and there was no push for me because I had no date and when I was going to take it. Register first for it because it makes it real, and then you have to get to studying. That's how it was for me. As soon as I registered, I wasted no time in studying. So when you register for it, you have 6 months to schedule. Well, you don't have 6 months to schedule, but you have a 6-month window of when you can schedule it. So I registered in January. I took the test the last Monday in April of 2022. So January was when I registered. At that time, you put your application in, and you also apply for, taking the test. Your application is for your eligibility. So they'll ask you what your career is. So they'll see if you're eligible first, and then they'll approve you for actually taking the test. And then so when it was January, I registered, and then I set my date for April. Now the thing is, you don't have open reign when you register. It's not like, oh, well, I can choose my date. If I register in January, I want to take it May the 14th. No, there's a window of days you can choose from. So my thought was that I was going to have free reign of whatever day within the 6 months. No, it's when the facility can house you in it. I took my test in person, so it was whenever the facility could have me. There were about 7 days in April that were highlighted as days I could have gone in. So it's not full openness. I could have waited until June, I think it was. I think 6 months was June was the last that I could register, but none of the June dates made sense for me. I knew I wanted to travel. Travel Girl Summer starts for me. So I wanted to have it done pre-May, pre-everything travel, pre my best friend's wedding. My best friend was getting married actually that next Sunday after I took the test. So I wanted to be able to enjoy her wedding without me thinking about the test, whether I passed or failed. I wanted to be in the moment. So I registered, and then I got busy with the studying, and it became so real once I registered. So register first. Again, it gives you that 6-month window. You have at least 6 months, not every day in those 6 months. Maybe you have to test in May because the days make more sense for you, or the weekends, or whatever the schedule may be that works best for you. But you have time. Just studying without having a plan for me wouldn't work. I need to be driven by a deadline, if that makes sense. Also, there was a virtual option. It was just too many requirements for the virtual option, so I decided to test in person. With the cost of the test, my company actually paid for it, so that was a wonderful thing. If you have a company that cares about your progression, cares about your progress, they tote tuition reimbursement and those types of things, then they should reimburse. Now, don't go in there saying, I watched a girl on YouTube who said you should pay for my thing. Look into your company's reimbursement policy, talk to your manager. But I talked to my manager and I said, I'm taking the PHR. It's for the betterment of myself, which should in turn make y'all a better company. So my betterment, it's not like I went and got a certification is something that's totally outside of the realm. I don't think they would have paid for it if I said, you know what I want to get nail tech certified. Honey, no, they're not paying for irrelevant things. I work in HR. I roll up to the VP of HR. That's who my manager, my director, we roll up to HR. It's a professional in HR. How is this not helping the situation? So my company paid for it. If you have a company who, again, knows that this is what you want to do and you are in HR, hopefully they will reimburse you. If not, get your PHR and maybe think about going to a company that wants your progress, wants you to grow. I'm all about going to a company who will invest in your employees, because my director has always said that her motto is, she gets that pushback from people who are always like, but what if we pay for students to get continued education and then they leave? What if they get certifications and they grow and then they leave? And then she always rebuttals, well, what if we don't and then they stay? What if we don't pay for them to grow or expand and then they stay? Then we're left with people who don't have that knowledge and don't have those experiences and don't have that continued education. It's a hindrance to us. Yes, we might bite the bullet and they might leave once they expand themselves. But what if we don't invest in them? We don't invest in their growth and then they just stay. Now, as far as study aids, like I said, my learning management system has incredible skill software, which I think really helped. And again, I can't recommend that because it's going to be unique to my company. However, there are resources that I bought and have that really helped me. Now, the first book that I will say I maybe shouldn't have spent my money on, or maybe shouldn't have spent so much time on, is this book. So I bought the book, this is the first version I bought because I thought I was going to take the test in 2020, but again, I didn't give myself a deadline, so I just bought the study aid and never cracked it open. So I then went and bought the 2022 version of this book. Again, it's on Amazon, and it's one of the first options that come up. I spent all of February reading from this book, and I thought I was getting it. I thought I was really getting into it. Skirt. Then I purchased this book. I have it on Kindle, so I'll insert kind of what it looks like. I don't have the physical copy, but it's on my iPad. I bought it in Kindle. I should have bought the hard copy version of it because there were so many times I wanted to take notes or take the practice test and actually write in it and then flip back to it. It's a little bit harder, especially for me being new to Kindle for iPad. It was hard for me to get it together and understand it, but this book is good. It's a good book. It's way better. I think the reason why I kept buying this book is because it kept coming up as the first option on Amazon. No. This was not it. So hindsight being 2020, I should have started with this book right here. I should have bought it in hard copy version, and I should have started with that. I should have spent my majority of my time on this book because this is the complete. This is the complete will get you together. This book is okay if you have a very good knowledge of everything. If you're already a generalist, you're already an HR business partner, you already work in a wide variety, and you're an HR generalist who does everything, who touches performance management, who touches talent acquisition, employee relations, labor relations, you touch everything and you just need a refresher, then this is good. If you're somebody like me, who I don't touch employee relations on a day-to-day, I don't touch labor relations, I kind of dibble and dabble in performance and learning development and all of that, but that is not my forte. I'm not in compensation. I'm not in total rewards. I needed something that was going to give me the complete everything. I want a book that's going to treat me like I don't know nothing about TA. I don't know nothing about employee relations. I don't know nothing about anything HR. I want that book that's going to be dumbed down a bit. This book really helped. So that's my first choice. My second book that I bought was this book. I'll insert it on screen now too. Again, I bought it in Kindle form. Going forward for the SHRM CP test, I'll buy every book in hard copy form because I think I just need a book. I'm not a technical girl when it comes to that. But this book wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I'll link all of this books I actually have. I'll link it down below so you guys can see. But again, supplemented all of this with the learning management system. I also took the practice test that the PHR has. It was an additional cost, but the PHR site has a timed and untimed, I think 50 question test that you can take. I did take that just to help me to see what kind of questions, because it's from the specific HRCI. HRCI does the PHR. So HRCI is the body company of the PHR, the APHR, the SPHR, the GPHR, all the PHRs. They are the housing company of it. So I bought their practice one as well. So that was helpful too. I know if you don't want to spend extra money, find the ones online. They do have so many free options. But when I tell you that test truly showed me where I was, because I was like, oh, these questions are a little different. They're different than the happy-go-lucky questions that are in this book. This is the real deal. Okay, we're getting into some real questions. The test is a computer-based test. Now, you take it on a computer. I went to I think it's the Pearson's place where you test. We have 2 locations in Charlotte, so I just chose one of the locations and I went to that location. When you're in the facility itself, there's other people testing for other exams. So there was a full house in there. So I now see why that you can't just test on any day that you want to. They have to make sure they have a computer available for you, because again, it was not an empty seat really there, but not everybody's taking PHR. They're taking hundreds of other tests or certifications for hundreds of other careers that they could be in. Now, the test itself, you'll see online, it'll say 190 questions. I'm telling you right now, there are 115 questions as it stands today. As I took it in April 2022, again, use my April 2022 knowledge, there are 115 questions. There are 90 questions that are actually graded. There are, how many was it? 25 pre-test questions. They're known as pre-test questions. You don't know what's an actual question versus a pre-test question. You don't know. It doesn't say, this question doesn't really count, y'all. This is a joke question. It does not let you know. So you have to treat every single question as if it's a real counting question, which is hard. The pre-test questions are there to, I think, evaluate whether something should be included for next year or shouldn't be included for next year. I used every single moment of it. Every single moment. I mean, it was like 5, 8, 10 minutes left when I clicked that submit button. So you go in there, they check you. You can't bring no bags in there. Don't bring you nothing. Just come in there. You're going to have to put your phone up. You're going to have to lock your phone, your backpack, your pocketbook, whatever you have with you. You're going to have to lock that up. They give you a locker key. So you have that locker key with you. You walk. They have you check your shoes. They have you check every item of you because they don't play no games. There's a camera on you at all times. So there's a camera pointing on me as I'm taking the test. So when I raised my hand to be done, they came and got me. The test itself, they not playing no games. This ain't no test you gonna be able to cheat on. So be prepared. The test itself too, the biggest thing I can say is know the information. Know it like the back of your hand. This is a comprehension test. So my thing when I studied, that's why I said that PHR test online was a good investment for me. That online test given by the HRCI. I might link it down below if I can find like how to get to it outside of like my account. But that helped me realize, oh, we're not just doing definitions. Because my thought about the test was that it was going to be Title IX Act was enacted in what year? I thought it was going to be definitions, kind of like, because I'm good at good definitions. I'm good at memorizing something and then going to a test. What year did the Civil War end? Those types of things in high school, crushed it. Because all you have to do is remember a year. You need to know how to apply these things. I cannot stress it enough. Don't just know the definition of something. Know in the bones when this would apply. In your soul, you have to know what applies to what. And it was hard because in your mind, you're like, couple of these sound true. It's really like you have to think. That's why it took me so long. Again, and it could be because I don't work in, the whole space of everything HR. I'm not firing people. I'm not doing all of these things. And that's why I feel like I'm so proud that I passed, because I'm not fully well versed in every single thing. I'm not a comp analyst. I'm not our senior compensation analyst. I'm not our total rewards person at my job. I'm not our benefits analyst. I'm not our HR business partner. I'm not any of this, but it's about knowing it all to be able to apply it. So know it. That's all I can say is don't think this is a definition. Like, do your little flashcards, because my flashcards, they helped. No, do your little flashcards. That was one of my biggest study things, but the flashcards, you gotta go beyond that. You have to put yourself in hypotheticals. You have to be in a scenario-based mindset more than a definitions-based mindset, for sure. My next thing, give extra TLC to the spaces that you struggle in. When I would take my practice exams in my booklet and anything where I took a practice exam in this book and my other book and all my books, the section I least struggled in was total rewards. That's funny. That's rich coming from somebody who does not work in total rewards. But I have a best friend. Shout out to you. Hey, Jess. She works as a compensation analyst. That's been her job since we started. We started back in 2012 at my first job at Aon, where it was a rotation. We started there together. Now she's ended up, all my friends who I made during that program, they've all stayed in HR, but it hasn't always been recruiting. She went to compensation, and I told her I passed total rewards every single time I take it. And she was like, because it's more cut and dry with total rewards. There's little wiggle room with total rewards. Like, there are a couple answers in talent acquisition that couple may sound right, or employee relations, but when it comes to compensation, numbers don't lie. When it comes to, benefits and how rules apply, how FMLA applies, how FSLA applies, it's really cut and dry. It's no no, well, maybe. It's really cut and dry. So I have my exam results, because you get your results as soon as you walk out. Like, you don't have to wait hours to figure out, did you pass or fail. You literally go to your locker, because it took her a minute to print my results. So she was like, go get your stuff out your locker and then I'll have your results printed out. So I got my stuff and it said pass, and it was like a sigh of relief. So my biggest thing, I missed no question on total rewards in the actual test. It doesn't tell you numbers. It doesn't tell you anything. It's just a bar graph, what I'm looking at. It tells you kind of the highest score, lowest score. My highest score, where I missed not a single question, was total rewards, which funny because I don't work in total rewards. But she was like, you maybe missed your calling. And I might have. Talent acquisition actually wasn't even my second highest. My second highest was business management, which is more understanding how the business operates. It's which I think at a very high level, I've always understood business, how a business does business. I get that. And I think above that, because talent acquisition wasn't even my third highest, was employee and labor relations. And that was only purely because of studying the area I struggled in the most, which was that labor relations. Coming from my current company is a unionized company outside of corporate. The corporate isn't unionized, but our manufacturing sites, a lot of them are unionized, where they have union employees and not. But I don't recruit on those positions, so I never touch the union or labor relations side of things. So I needed to study. So I put aside total rewards because it felt like, again, the test showed I didn't need no more studying for total rewards. I didn't miss a single total rewards question. I needed to focus on studying labor and employee relations, because I don't sit in that space. That's not a space I'm in at all. I didn't really study as much in talent acquisition because I thought, okay, that's a space I'm in and I work in. And again, it's a space where I miss a few questions. And then as far as studying itself, I studied an hour and a half every single night. There are only a couple of nights where I did not study that night, and it felt painful. I felt like, oh my God, I'm failing. Like this is all over for me. I was so hard on myself, and my mom was like, you are being too hard on yourself. There were friend activities that I canceled, or I said I can't go to, like, because I was studying for this test. My head was down. That's why when I take the SHRM next year, I want to do the same thing though, because at least it was January through April for me where my life was not my life. I dedicated my whole life to it. If it was summer, it'd be a little bit harder because you want to go outside. If it was May through August, I wouldn't. I mean, there's so many of you guys who are like, I'm going to take the test during the summer. I'm not going to do that because I want to be when it's cold, where the days get dark early, when, I'm not trying to go outside no ways. I'm sitting in the house with a bowl of chili. I picked the perfect time. So that's my plan for next year, to do the SHRM at the same time, because again, I'm at home. It's nothing to take an hour and 30 minutes. I don't have that big of a social life in January because I don't like going outside and putting no coats on. February, I ain't putting no coats on. March, I ain't getting attacked by no pollen and nothing like that. My butt's in the house, and it was easy to study that hour and 30 every single night. The next thing, post the test. Did I feel like it was helpful? Absolutely. I do not regret taking that test. I've seen it be great for me tenfold, over and over again. It's been so good for me. Like, there's so many situations that I'm in where I wrote an article for our work. We try to do something that educates employees every month, and because it was so fresh on my mind at that time, I wrote my article on bias. So recency bias, the central tendency bias, halo effect, horn effect, all the biases that I learned through just studying. I wrote an article on it, and a lot of people found that helpful because it was like, I don't even think about these biases. Like, I didn't even think about first impression bias or even body language biases, but I learned that through studying, which was so cool. I mean, again, these are biases I probably had thought of, but like knowing it and being fresh in my mind. I talked to my comp analyst like just the other day because she was going through comps for me for campus recruiting, and she used words like compression. She used words like compra ratio. She used a lot of words, and I was following every single moment of it. And I don't work in comp, so nothing went over my head. She was talking about the 50th percentile, the 75th percentile, where we wanted to stay within as a company. Like, she was telling me so specific things, and nothing was flying over my head, because I know what compra ratio. I know what she means in rage compression. I know what she means with we don't want to be over 90% compra ratio. Like, I know what she was talking about, and it felt so good. So for me, yes, for 100% sure, I'm so happy I did this. And then the final thing, recertification. Just be mindful that you are going to have to recertify. So my certification ends November of 2025. I think they put it the birthday of 3 years out. So my birthday's in November of every year. But I took the test in 2022. I took it in April 2022, and my thought would be, wouldn't it just expire April of 2025? No, it expires your birth month of it. I think unless your birth month is before you took the test. I don't know how that works, but there was a whole thing online that showed me. It just made sense to me because my birthday is in November. So my certification runs out in November of 2025 unless I take 3 certification courses and I resubmit for that. Now, online right now, I'll insert right now, I think it's 60 that I have to get. I've taken 7 so far, and it's just September, and I take certification classes whenever I see them come up. So I'm registered, and I get emails from HRCI every week pretty much, and sometimes they're promoting their classes that are worth 1 certification class. So they're free webinars that you can join. They're webinars that you don't have to attend, but you can. Most are worth 1 credit. I've taken 7 so far. I try to take the ones that seem relevant. I've taken some that aren't relative to what I do, so they're in all facets of HR. So not just talent acquisition or anything like that. I've taken one that was on FMLA and leave of absence, which was good because I like that I've learned more about FMLA and leave of absence, even just from a me knowing perspective. Like, now I get it, but that webinar wasn't geared towards what I do day to day, but I thought it was a good webinar. But both my manager I had in January of this year and the current manager that I have now, both, again, having had their PHRs, they were like, remember to take your certification, girl. If there's one thing I can tell you, take those certifications. So don't let it run out in 3 years and you have to retest. She was like, well, my manager now was like, she has a former colleague who, instead of submitting recertification credits, she just retakes the tests every 3 years. And for me, that's not a test I want to retake. So I'm going to get those credits. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to not go through the pain of studying for those months like I had to. Never. I'm going to do this every single time that I need to. I'm very passionate about my PHR. I love what it has done for me. We're done with that, and we're moving on to the grueling process of SHRM CP. So if you have any tips for me about the SHRM test and you've taken that, let me know down below. If you have any other questions that I didn't answer, feel free to leave them down below. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Even if you didn't, we want all the love and support over here, as well as we want you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything I do over here. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram at LeoLavon89 so you can keep up with my shenanigans in real time. And I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
I beat nobody. Been searching all around, but I found nobody.